This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Well, Ira, unfortunately, the Heat and John Morant, they weren't cocked and loaded for the challenge.
I'll leave that alone, although you guess you could say that the Cavaliers threw a grenade in the Heat locker room in the game one of this series. You know what? We knew they would be overmatched. But let's be honest here, Big O, before we get to all of your negativity today. You and I spoke last week, I'm being facetious, that if the Heat got to this series and made it a playoff season and accomplished something tangible, that the takeaway would be a step forward. So we spoke last week before the Bulls. We spoke last week before they went and won in Atlanta. A little bit tenuously, but still did. They salvaged their season. You know what the next salvage job would be? If you and I are still talking next week because the Heat have to come back here to Cleveland for a game 3 and actually win a game in this series, just like Boston last year. We all remember that game 2 in Boston when Tyler Hero went off and sort of introduced himself as a standalone star. I need to see that again. There are things I still need to see in this series so I can trust Heat players, be it Khalil Ware show something, be it Tyler Hero beat the defense. Things still can be accomplished, but let's not kid ourselves. The expiration date is near because the Cavaliers are a great team, not just a good team.
Well, I just touched on it. Let's run a couple things by you on this one. First of all, Bam and Tyler, guys, this is your moment, right? I mean, you got to do better. Bam, you got to be way more efficient than you were yesterday. 10 of 22 is unacceptable. Missing easy free throws is unacceptable. Tyler, you cannot go in the second half for almost an entire quarter in between the third and the fourth and not score. You're the guy, right? You got to find a way to be more impactful. I would say that's one issue there. If you want to at least try to find a way to win one game, because that's really the goal. If you win one game, it becomes really
but to address that first point of yours, I would say more on Tyler than Bam, just for this reason, Big O. We know Bam's not a scorer. We know offense is secondary to him. Defensively, he worked his ass off. He tried to cover for other players. Khalil was lost out there. We'll get to that. The talk about after games like this, about Tyler, they may be their focus. They were loading up on me. That's what great players deal with in the NBA all the time. Right. Be it a Jason Tatum, be it a Giannis, be it some of the other scoring guards, including, honestly, a Donovan Mitchell in this series. So for a player to say, well, they were loading up on me, if you are a great dynamic scorer, you find a way. And Tyler has. Tyler has shown over the year he can find other ways to get it done. We certainly know Eric Spoelstra will find other options. But you can't have a scorer saying, well, they were all over me. They made me the focus. You're damn well right. Because on October 1st, when you asked Pat Riley to write a check for an extension at $50 million a year, the excuse can't be, well, they're loading up on me. That's why I'm struggling. The reality has to be, I'm an MFer and I will get mine no matter what it takes. That's what Tyler Hero's mindset has to be. Because unlike Bam, there is no defensive component on the other side.
Okay, then the other thing that I came away with that I'm a little sour on, and I love my guy Spo, but you're here for a short time. Okay, let's make the best of it. You left Larson on the bench. You left others on the bench. This is give them the experience. And part 2 of that question, what was missing out of the Miami Heat last night is toughness. You got to push a little bit more. I need more sons of bitches on the court. Pallet Larson has a little dog in him. He's a little bit of a son of a bitch, and he's so young, he doesn't even know any better, which is even more dangerous, which I love. I want him to deal his 5 fouls in there because I know within that time he's going to make some plays. He's the guy who's going to be diving for loose balls. Him and Davion Mitchell add something that they just don't bring to the table on a consistent basis. I want a little more toughness. Plus, slash, you got an opportunity to get some of these guys experience in the playoffs. I don't want you to, if you do get eliminated in 4 or 5 games, I don't want to sit here and say, wow, Hillel Larson didn't get any playing time, didn't get any experience in the playoffs. That's not good. I think this is an opportunity where you got to expand your roster a little bit more and add an element that you don't have.
Well, multiple points there. First of all, as far as the effort and all that, let's face it. If you're a video gamer, Big O, they were running on fumes. Their energy level was low. That Atlanta game took everything out of them. They flew overnight, optional practice Saturday, shoot around Sunday. I mean, that's the price you pay of being a playing team. Cleveland was off not only for a full week, they were resting their players the final week of the season. They were locked and loaded. The Heat were exhausted. Perfect time now for a 2-day break. To your other point, I agree that against a dynamic opponent like Cleveland, you cannot go in trying to solely win with one-dimensional players. God bless Duncan Robinson and Alec Burks, but they're one-trick ponies. They either make the threes or they don't, but that's it. Pelle Larsson can give you energy, give you slashing, give you defense, give you the effort, give you attacking. A Nikola Jovic can give you some of the size you need, some of the shooting you need, some of the presence and ball movement you need. So I agree with that. It's a tough call.
And freshness. Take some minutes off your guys.
Energy. I agree with all of that. So Eric Spoelstra, it's a very subtle thing here, Big O. You don't want to make it look like you're panicking. You don't want to make it look like you're moving off what got you through the play-in with that 9-man core. But yeah, this demands something different because you're not in Chicago anymore. You're not in Atlanta anymore. God bless those wins. But let's face the reality. Those teams suck. Those teams had losing records. That was not a great statement by the Heat. The Heat just showed they could push through with this rotation against mediocrity. I totally agree. You're going to have to sort of search and find other ways. Eric Spoelstra is very good at that. He has 2 days now in the laboratory. I'm very interested to see what game 2 looks like. I can almost guarantee it will look different.
By the way, I can spin that like you say, well, you want to stick with what got you through the play-in. Hold on. Pelle Larsson got your ass into the play-in. Okay, let's stick with the people that got you on the streak. Let's stick with the people that helped you get in the play-in. Larsson was a big player during that stretch. He helped out a lot in those games. So reward the young man. Plus, again, the Davion Mitchell, I talked about this last week. It's interesting. What you're getting from Davion Mitchell is what you thought you were going to get from Terry, from Scary Terry. You go, okay, he's always been inconsistent, this, that. We'll get him. Well, like we've done with many other players in the past, and we'll get the best out of him, like a Whiteside or a James Johnson or an Eric Murdoch or a Isaac Austin or whatever the hell we could talk about for 25 years that they've done, which is all true. And they saw the same thing in Davion because, as you and I know, and we read it last week on Friday, I had Sean look it up. Look at all his offensive numbers. They're all skyrocketing now in efficiency compared to where he was. And that's the Heat culture, that they think that, as long as a player's willing to do it and all that, they usually can make more people better because of who they are. And Davion Mitchell is a perfect example of what he's brought to the table and what the Heat culture has done for him too at the same time.
And it's interesting you mentioned Terry Rozier, and I wrote this in my blog today. The Heat need a sidekick for Tyler Hero, who's also a scorer. They thought when they traded for Terry Rozier, that's what they were getting last January, that they were getting that component so it wouldn't all be on Tyler, and then it went south. I actually ran into Eric Reed and John Crotty at breakfast this morning and had the audacity to mention maybe they need some Terry, and I could not have been shot down any quicker on that you've sort of been there, seen that, done that, and probably go to, like you said, Pelle Larsson or Nikola Jovic first to shake it up a little. You do need to shake it up. Game 1 showed you need to shake it up. I would love Terry Rozier to do what he did in Cleveland last season when he came in the end of the season, lit up the Cavaliers, had the Heat walking away with a victory. He just hasn't been that in so long. I don't know if he can conjure that again. That's the problem. You look at the depth of the rotation of the Cavaliers, of a Ty Jerome coming in, of an Isaac Okoro coming in, of a DeAndre Hunter coming in. The Heat have that depth. It just hasn't produced. Terry Rozier hasn't produced. Jaime Jaquez Jr. hasn't produced. So all of a sudden, when you say the Heat need more energy, my God, you're playing Haywood Highsmith 39 freaking minutes in a playoff game because you don't have plan C, D, and E. That's the problem. The Heat depth has really let them down this season. I agree.
Yeah, although I think the coach kind of let himself down because I would have played Larson last night for sure. And because as big and long also as Cleveland is, I would have Jovic in there too. And again, my guys had just played 2 nights ago and they're dead. I thought those 2 guys could have helped out and given some fresh legs and give those guys some time. I just hope 2 days from now on Wednesday, we're going to see those guys. And that's the bright spot now. That Spo and company got a game in their bag now, and now they're going to go and slice and dice this bitch for the next 2 days and prepare these kids.
And they will. They're the Heat. That's what they do. They go to the lab. Spo will come up with something. Yeah. He'll, even if it's the same rotation to start, I think there'll be a quicker hook because of the desperation of hoping not to go down 0-2. But you know what? If you go home down 0-2, but at least you're competitive in game 2, you create optimism for, hey, these home playoff games might have meanings. At least try to make the Big O watch on split screen when for some reason the Panthers and Heat are both playing exactly at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Idiots. I mean, there's got to be a better way to work out the scheduling than that. That's just a damn shame. And you have the third day of the NFL draft. Saturday's going to be an interesting sports day in South Florida. You might need to come up with a bonus episode.
By the way, yeah, I may do it on Saturday. This is old Heat talk into new Heat, and you've mentioned this before on the show that this Heat team is the Heat team that you want to bring home with your daughter and say, hey, Dad, look, I met this guy. He's a really nice guy, because it's a roster of really good guys overall. Correct. And all that kind of stuff, and maybe too good. And so last night, there was an opportunity. There was a golden opportunity. Unfortunately, it was the wrong guy to be in that position. You know what I'm about to say?
Was it the Donovan Mitchell moment?
Yes. If you're smart, when he pushes you, brother, you push him even harder.
Into the stands.
And try to light him up to see if he fights. And that way both of you get ejected, and it's a beautiful trade-off. And I looked at Duncan last night and I was like, my brother, you have to be the sacrificial lamb here. You have to do this. But it's just not in this team's DNA. Why the hell do you think I want Larson in there? Because you're not going to tell Davion Mitchell or Larson how to play the goddamn game. They're going to play the way they play, whether you like it or not.
Duncan Robinson is not Sam Bennett. Duncan Robinson is not going to go to Brad Marchand when he's still in Boston and put him out for the rest of the series. It's just not who he is. But I noticed that moment, that the one moment of true feistiness when they had an opportunity, it was just the wrong guy at the wrong moment in the wrong place. Look, Big O, let's go through this roster.
I'm like, where is Keith Askins?
That's what I'm saying. They don't have an enforcer. You can go through this entire roster. But the Heat typically do have an enforcer on their roster, even if it's someone like a Thomas Bryant. You'd have a guy. Remember Thomas Bryant, when the Heat got into all their scuffles, including a year ago in New Orleans, when he got suspended for 2 games and he was backing up Jimmy Butler in that moment. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put it back on you. If there is one guy on the Heat, who would that guy be?
Send in the Michael Pittman, baby. Wham! Come on, let's go.
Yeah, they don't have that guy. There's probably not a guy I can tell you that, hey, if there's a guy that's going to come out off the bench throwing, James Johnson they had, Dion Waiters would have been a player like that. They don't have that kind of personality. So that's the push-pull of having a roster of 15 really nice guys.
Larson might have gotten a little feisty in that moment right there. Although now that I think about it, if Donovan Mitchell's playing in the same time as Keith Askins, there's no effing way he's stupid enough to push Keith Askins. That's the only thing, because if you know the person, like, what, you're going to push UD? Like, no, you're not. You're going to try to get to your player. You might say, excuse me, or something, or go around. But there are certain guys you can push Duncan Robinson because you know there's not going to be any.
Or if you push PJ Tucker, he sends you flying into the stands like Charlie Ward, the new coach at FAMU. So so that's the difference. Whether it was a Brian Grant
or you push PJ Brown to stay in the PJs, you know what I'm saying? But that was a moment last night that I was like, brother, this was such wrong. God, man, come on. That would have been awesome.
Not who they are, not who the NBA is today. Deal with it. Zoe was in the stands watching, but not actually involved in the actual game.
Oh, God. All right, so what are we expecting in game 2?
Well, I'm going to be honest. As someone who follows the NBA, more of the same, because Cleveland is very, very good. 27 games better than the Miami Heat. Look, it is going to take the Heat's best game and something far less than the Cavaliers' best game for the Heat to get something here. But again, they were within 6 points in the third quarter. They were within 7 midway through the fourth. I think that's what the Heat has to do. Junk it up. Get behind like they did yesterday by 16, 17. Get close to the end and then make winning plays at the end. The Heat's going to have to win winning time like they did in that overtime against Atlanta.
The Ja Morant thing, just a little karma. Karma's good sometimes.
Yeah, it's a shame because they do have so much talent in that Memphis team, and it's just so disjointed. And again, you can sit here and you can say, is Ja Morant a winning player? He hasn't shown that yet. So let me throw it back to you because this is what we do on our Accurate Pembroke Pines report. We'll be doing it all summer. Ja Morant, Miami Heat, your thoughts, Big O?
Oh, God. I mean, he's such a – the problem is, can you reach him? Can you reach him? Does he want
anyone could, if anyone can, this would seem to be a place players want to go.
I would take a chance on him than Zion. I would never, ever bring Zion here because Zion is he's
health, body, breakdown.
And there's a level of laziness in him that you just can't.
I think it's more the lack of games played. So the question is, would you rather take a chance on head games and the mental or take a chance on the physical? Well, the physical, you have MRIs and you know what's not going to be there and you've seen the breakdowns. Yeah. On the mental, the Heat have turned so many careers in that direction, including making Anthony Mason not only an all-star starter, but making him a fortune in free agency. So the question becomes what price? But I'm going to throw it to you this way, and I think I know your answer. The cost would probably be this. Would you trade Tyler Hero for Ja Morant?
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
That's what it would take.
In a heartbeat. Yes, you can have him.
I'll tell them. Andy Ellisberg is out here traveling. I'll let him know, Big O.
Dude, I'll drive Tyler or fly or whatever. I'll make sure he gets there with no problem. Yes. Yes. I'll take the chance because Ja just needs to get his head out of his ass. He just needs to grow the hell up already, dude. And then you can win with him. Zion, I don't think he'll grow up, and I don't think he physically holds up. And so why am I even going to take that one? I would be very critical of, just like the Kyle Lowry deal. I would be very critical of the Heat on that one. But the Ja Morant one, I would go with because Ja also goes, oh, well, wait a minute. Now I'm going to somewhere where there's banners, there's Pat Riley. These people know what the hell they're doing. If I fail here, I'm going to look like a real horse's ass.
And maybe doesn't care. And maybe doesn't care. There's plenty of guys who look like horses' asses and cashed out and cashed in and called it a career. So you can also wind up with the knucklehead. So, but there's going to be so many interesting names. We are going to go back to Kevin Durant. We are going to look at Zion. We are going to go back to Ja. There's going to be names out there. And you know what? If you're a whale hunter, and you've sharpened your harpoon for 3 years, you're going to fling that thing out to sea and see what you can come back with. Because the Heat, even in this series, exposes they're not good enough. They have to do something. They have to get better. Because you know what? Right now, they're setting up as nothing more than a play-in team next year as well. Because the Sixers could get right. Because Detroit is not going anywhere. Because Orlando's going to get Jalen Suggs back. So the Heat, if they realize in this East, they're going to have to do a little bit more, and Cleveland is showing them how hard it is to win, even in the East.
Explain once again to the folks out there the playoff, how it affects the draft picks.
We're sort of done. The Heat do not have their own first-round pick this year. It goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have a gazillion picks. It'll be number 15. Today at 3 o'clock, unless you're listening to this down the road, Monday at 3 o'clock, the NBA is going to have a draw for the 18th and 19th and 20 picks. That's the first rounder the Heat are getting for the trade from Jimmy Butler. We'll see where they draft. They got Jaquez, a value at 18. They've done well. Precious Achiuwa at number 20. Could have had Tyrese Maxey at number 20 that year. So you can get something out of it. It also means that instead of an unprotected lottery pick to Charlotte in 28, it's now a protected pick, top 14 protected to Charlotte in 27 from the worst trade ever, the Terry Rozier trade. So by making the playoffs, the Heat, even if they don't get past and won't get past the Cavaliers, they've eased their lottery burden down the road, but they still will have a first-round pick this year.
Like I was telling people that complain about this, at one point or another, they had to pay the piper, bro.
You do. You made a couple of deals. You cast your future to the moment. This team lives in the moment. It's the same way with Big O and his investments. You just live in the moment.
Damn right. And Bitcoin's over 88, baby. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Better yet, subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel so you don't miss a damn thing. Ira, thank you as always. We will catch up next week, my friend.
Catch you next Monday in our accurate Pembroke Pines report when it might be 3-0 Cleveland, but hopefully something better as that day we look into Game 4 against the Cavaliers. Thanks, Big O.
You got it. Thank you, Ira. Let's hope that they can sneak one. Just give me one, bro. Just give me one. Folks, you can get electrified. The ZDX is in stock at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. You can get it for $439 a month, 0% financing for 72 months. The RDX, my wife drives that every single day for the last 15 years. $399 a month, the number one volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. There is no better Acura dealership than, of course, Craig Zinn's Acura Pembroke Pines. The MDX, we can take $10,000 off the MSRP. The ADX, you got to check out that new sedan. It is beautiful. New model, $359 a month. They just arrived. They've got a bunch now in stock, so you can select the Integra 2025 model, $339 a month, 3.9% financing. Tell them that Big O sent you. Check out the fleet of certified pre-owned vehicles. They look like they're brand new. And the service center, it is absolutely awesome. Mike Chen, Jordan Ferber, they are fantastic human beings. They will take care of you. And that service center is golden, baby. You get to relax, kick back. They got TVs, free water for you. They got a cafeteria. So if you want a little pastelito or a little coffee or something or soda, you can get it all there while you wait and get that oil change that Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. This is the